talk about what it takes to put together stuff to record at home. Second part, after lunch, is we'll actually do it. I brought all the bits and pieces, so we will actually do, this is going to be a challenge for you, but we will actually do some test recording topic. Ask Paula to come over with her instruments and a piece, and we'll do it. Okay, so here's your problem. I want to record, but it's scary. Yeah, well, we're going to set you up to record in your own home. We're going to have a recording that is a recording studio that is reasonably versatile, has decent sound, and is as inexpensive as we can manage. Right? You will have to spend some money, but it won't be a hell of a lot. Okay, so this is what we're going to be building. These chairs. Building. No, they're all that way. So we have the performer who's going to be talking into some kind of a microphone or a pickup. That microphone feeds into a sound interface, which feeds into the computer. The computer is going to be running some software to do the actual recording work. And at the same time, we're going to have a line back to the performer so they can hear what they're doing. And it, not many pieces here, and it doesn't take that much to actually put this whole thing together. Yes.
The first thing I notice is the feedback loop to the performer is right from the interface,
right,
not from the DAW.
Right.
Okay.
Most interfaces are two-way, and they sound better than. Okay, you may have noticed, I've got a external speaker hooked up here so that we can have some better volume than what comes out of the PC. But there are advantages to coming out of the sound interface, which we'll get to as when we get to that point.
Okay. So when I'm playing, what I'm hearing is the input to the recording, not the output from the recording.
You'll actually, at one point, you'll be listening to both.
Okay.
The interface will look like another sound card inside the machine. But we'll be talking about that again here. So now up comes our shopping list. This is the stuff that if you don't have it, you're going to want. First up, microphones. There are microphones everywhere these days. Your PC has a microphone in it. My PC we might have two. The problem is that they are cheap and they sound cheap. There are a number of technical reasons which we'll get into if people are really interested, but there's no point in worrying about it. They're just cheap. They cost maybe $1 to the price of a computer, and they sound like it. If you can spend some money, $50 to $100, is that you can get pretty good hardware, professional hardware that sounds like professional hardware.
What kind of microphone am I looking for to record small acoustic instruments?
We'll get to that. I brought some. Okay. There are several types of microphones that you will run into. We're going to get technical here, but not horrible. One is called dynamic microphone. They are you run into them more often in live sound environments because they tend to be a little bit less sensitive, and they're also tougher. I have several here.
Shure 57.
No, this is a Shure 58.
Mm-hmm.
And go ahead and turn the lights on for a second. This is a Shure SM58, and I actually watched a Shure representative drive a nail with one.
Yeah.
All right. It's tough as nails. It's got a really predictable sound, and sound guys love it. Related to that is the SM57, which looks a whole lot more modern. This is a really timeless design. And this one works somewhat better on instruments. This why I own 5 of these.
What did you call that? An SM
57.
57, that's more directional.
No, it's just got a different sound characteristic. I actually once found a recording of somebody demoing different microphones, and the way they did it is they had one guy, same guy, reading the same, reading a paragraph. Every 2 sentences, they switched microphones, and the sound quality was a difference between them was astonishing. Now we are talking about recording studio microphones, which run into the thousands of dollars. But even so, the difference was amazing. SM57s work well for instruments, and I use them on string instruments all the time. The problem is that you have to be like right on top of the instrument. We will get to that later. These are, so those are 2. I have another one here. This one, Sennheiser 835, is nearly as tough as the other ones. This one works really well for live vocals. It does a much better job of picking up and rendering live vocals, which is why our band uses it.
That's a Sennheiser.
That's a Sennheiser. Sennheiser, they make a boatload of them. There are, Shure makes 20 or 30 different microphones.
In a vast price.
Or vast price range and I think they actually, because there's a version of a PG line, which I think is the same as the SM line, except that when they test them, they don't perform quite as good. So it's like the second tier below the SM line.
It's a pretty good line.
Yeah.
I went before the Thanksgiving. I went to a store literally, and I did exactly what that guy did. I stood in front of their little collection of them, and I literally sang in each one.
Right.
Had them, and so I did it for my voice, but I didn't do it for my instrument. I could just kick myself now.
No, that's okay. That's okay. There's hundreds of microphones.
Yeah.
All right. Dynamic microphones do not require power. They are self-powered. They're typically more directional, but that's because they're a little bit less sensitive. Okay, condenser microphones. Condensers they work differently internally. They do require, they typically higher fidelity, which is interesting, and makes again a different microphones all sound different. I have several here. They tend to be more sensitive, so they will need a quieter room or other sound isolation techniques. We will talk about that. And they require power. Now, typically that power will come from the sound interface. So we'll get to that and we'll show you where that is here in a minute. Okay, then there are exotic microphones, which you are not likely to run into anytime soon. There's a type called a ribbon microphone, for example, which is not very sensitive, but excruciatingly good in its fidelity. And I stumbled across one. They take special handling a little bit. I stumbled across one at an electronics flea market. I snatched it up. I haven't figured out what I'm going to do with it yet, but I couldn't not do it at the price. Okay, so here we have, say, 2 examples. The Shure, which I showed you. The Audio Technica AT2020, which I brought one, which we may use. Plus I have these 2 here. These are Guitar Center specials from a company called MXL. This one, I'd be interested. I want to see how this one works in this one. This one, yeah,
I wasn't sure what to do. I was just like,
well, we may try it out here and see how it goes. Okay, but so you need you need at least one microphone. All right, you can do this whole thing with one. If you have more, as I've accumulated them over the years, I've accumulated a fair variety of microphones, and for different purposes. Sometimes it's just because I got lucky and found one. This is a Audio Technica 2020, or this is a 2050. The difference is that it has some different pickup patterns, which we'll also talk about here in a bit. I had a project in mind for this one, and then COVID got in the way.
We have a lot of.
Yeah. So if you happen to know if the choir group up in Cleveland is back in business here or there,
Nope.
that was part of the project, was to go record them.
That would have been nice.
Well,
Brenda has got a choir,
well, we can maybe work something out.
and we have an instrumental music group in Hawkins.
And I'm retired, so I can come up there at a moment's notice. Okay, on to the next. All right, next thing you'll need are cables. The typical cable, also a mic stand. I have a mic stand over here, but the mic stand is pretty basic. Typical cable on all of these use the same connector in the back. It's called an XLR. You'll see that it's got 3 pins. You can't hook it up backwards. It only goes one way. They're not terribly expensive, 10, 20 bucks. Maybe less if you know where to shop. Also, you can use 1/4-inch cables. Those are typically found in guitars and other instruments with pickups. You may or may not want to use your pickup. Again, that's a technique question. We will talk about that. Then there is something called a pop filter. I brought one of those. I brought an entire studio here. A pop filter is, go ahead and put the light back on for a second. A pop filter is, I mean, if you wanted to, you could take a pair of nylons and put them over a sewing hoop, okay? But the idea is that, especially condenser microphones, are very sensitive to the popping sound from the puffs of air when you make the popping noise with your mouth, okay? So you put this in front of the microphone and it filters out those pops without filtering out the rest of the sound. Because otherwise you get this, I'm hitting air hitting the microphone and it sounds really terrible and you can't fix it.
When I took a Southwest podcasting, they were using an AC-2020 that they
That would work.
and it did. It sounded beautiful. Everybody was a little horrified, but it worked fine. It wasn't clean.
I forgot my pop filter. Let me just.
There's a technique they teach in for using PA systems and announcing and things like that, is to replace your P's with B's.
Yeah.
Which takes, you got to have your brain fully engaged.
Right.
Leader by predicted pickled peppers.
Yeah. Here's some XLR tables, which we will need. These are, I don't know, 25 feet. This is more than enough. Okay.
Quick question for you.
Sure.
If you guys can see that okay, when the lights are off, your presentation is really whitewashed out really bad, and I can't see the pictures at all.
Okay.
But they're showing up a little better with the lights on.
Interesting.
That's fine.
Okay.
All right. So now, next up, we need to remember all of this assumes you have a suitable PC. Okay. We can talk about what it takes to be a suitable PC here in a little while. The audio interface. The PC has one. It's called a sound card. But again, it's cheap. It doesn't have an XLR connection on it, and so you have to either come up with some kind of weird ass adapter cable or some other things.
1/8 inch.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I think.
If that.
Yeah, 3.5 millimeters, and you've got very little control over what you can do with it. So instead, we get a sound interface. Right. This is a good one. Again, not terribly expensive. Last time I looked on Amazon, they were $100, maybe a little less. Or if you spend a little bit more, you can get one and it comes with a mic stand and a cable. So all you need is a microphone.
I've got a Behringer 4-track.
Yeah.
Little mixer with that.
Does it have USB out?
Then I have USB.
Well, then you're stuck.
Okay.
Because you get still, that
Well,
doesn't get,
a lot of things do. I mean, so.
Well, this is 20 years old.
Right, I think you should probably put that in. They are always
What are you thinking?
so anyway, this one, yeah. So, yeah, this is not horrible. Again, it's around $100. You can get a little less. You get Focusrite ones are really good.
Is that a combination XLR and
Yes,
quarter-inch input?
indeed it is.
And that's fantastic.
Oh, my word, that's
Yeah.
really, okay,
Yeah.
that's worth the
it's
price
got-
revision right there.
It's got 2 inputs. 1/4 inch. I don't think we're going to use it, but I brought it along. It goes in the center like yay.
Or you plug in an XLR.
Or you can plug in an XLR, and it's got, you can also go out to speakers on the back. It's also got MIDI. We're not going to talk about MIDI, but if you want to do MIDI type stuff, it's got it. And it's got a place to plug in your headphones.
That's got a USB out.
And it's got a USB. So that
That's
you
a
plug
big USB, that's like a printer USB.
it's the old style USB. Yeah. Personas, that's Personas Audio Box USB 96.
I don't know if that'll work for me, I'm on that, but
Yeah, well,
I like it, I like all these things.
yes, it will. It'll show up as you got another sound card on your Mac. It'll be fine. Okay, you can get microphones, combo microphones that have USB interface built into them. Those tend to be used more often for podcasts.
Right.
They do work. Yeah, Blues, a Blue Yeti would be a good one.
I've got like 3.
It is one channel, and of course you can't pick and choose your microphones.
It's better for voice than instrument.
It's great.
Well, but it's designed as a podcasting microphone.
Mhm.
So you can mix it, pick and choose. There are technical reasons why you may or may not want them, want one or the other, but they certainly do work. I mean, I have even a blue snowball, which is even smaller than this.
I've got one of those.
Okay. You can also use a non-PC recorder. Really are hurting.
Mhm.
This is, this actually records astonishingly well.
I love mine.
It is a stereo, it's got stereo microphones on it, and it has a microphone input on one side. There are other varieties from Zoom that are only slightly bigger that can have 2 separate jacks or 2 separate microphones.
I have a Zoom that will take 4, it has this combo type where it'll take an XLR,
Mhm.
and it's not new, so.
No, and it works. This can work really well. The other one on the right there is a Zoom 8-track recorder, which I didn't bring, but I've recorded albums on that. Then it records onto its own SD card. I didn't take the SD card out and put it into the copy the files off the PC because it's recording WAV files exactly the same as everything else records, and it worked fine. I just had to rename all the tracks because to come out and say track 1, track 2, track 3, and I need to know, okay, that's 5 minutes or whatever. But it does work. You're sort of at the mercy of, and this is where we start getting esoteric, you're at the mercy of how much money that people decided to spend when they designed the audio side of things. And part of the reason that PC sound cards sound so cheap is because they are really cheap on the audio side. The audio chain is not, it's functional, but that's the best you can say for it. If you wanted to spend a whole lot of money, you can buy individual channel A to D recorders, A to D means analog to digital. So they're converters, you plug the microphone in, and out comes digital data that you put on the PC that are in the thousands of dollars per channel. I have not, my ears are not trained yet to hear the difference. But there can be a difference. There is a difference, and once you know how to hear it, you will hear it, the difference. And that gets deeply technical, which is a conversation for another time. Okay, so now, next up, software.
Yes, please.
Interestingly,
so, I didn't know if I deserved one.
well, we've been down this road before. Software can run from free to pretty expensive. Well, we'll get to that. Turns your PC into an audio workstation just like Photoshop turns a PC into a photography workstation. Mark the versatile tools as PCs. There are a number of very functional products that are free up to $1,000 plus. Okay, the free products are actually very good. And so here are a number of options. Persona Studio One Prime. I think it's actually now called Studio One Artist. And it comes with, when you buy this Persona's hardware. So if you were to go out and buy that from Personas, it comes with a copy, though you may have to download it, comes at least with a license for their free version. And their free version is very good. Unfortunately, I went to download a copy of it this week, and I can download the copy that I got when I got that, but I can't download the current version, which is like 3 generations later. So, so it goes. But that's a really good package, and if you run out, you can then upgrade to their commercial products, which start at $100 and then on. Cakewalk, which used to be called Sonar, which before Sonar was called Cakewalk. It's been through several ownerships.
I remember when Cakewalk first came out.
Yeah. And it is free. Free. All you have to do is sign up with BandLab. And then that doesn't cost anything either. And I signed up with BandLab and then pretty much ignore it. BandLab is an online resource for collaboration with other musicians that aren't local to you. And so you upload you record your stuff in Cakewalk and upload it to BandLab through Cakewalk because it's built into Cakewalk now. And other people running Cakewalk can get access to it and record their stuff, and you can build yourself a virtual band. But that's free. This, when it was Sonar, it was a paid-for product. I bought it at $600. Was not sorry. Now it's free. And now it's free. Well, but all the plugins that came with Sonar that I have work in Cakewalk by BandLab. So I got a gazillion plugins that I love, which we will talk about them later too. So anyway, the problem with Cakewalk, I have that on this machine, and we'll look at it. The problem with Cakewalk is it is a complete thing, just like Photoshop is a complete thing, and there's a lot in there. I ignore about 80% of it. Okay, so Avid has one called Avid Pro Tools. You probably walk into any studio and you say, do you use Pro Tools? And I say yes, pretty much. Pro Tools First is the free version of that. Steinberg has another one called Cubase, and their free version is called LE. And they have paid-for versions there. And then there's Reaper, which is shareware, and it actually works pretty damn good for shareware. It's like $60, and you don't even have to pay that. Really, you just have to dismiss the mag screen when you start up. I have Reaper on this too. I haven't paid. I bought Reaper a while back. I just need to buy the latest version. Audacity, I do not recommend Audacity. It does not. It doesn't look like all of these other ones look like a recording studio. Audacity does not.
So I can give you a little feedback about Audacity. I used Audacity for years. It was great for voiceover, and might still be, except that it was recently sold, like within the past year. And now I can't use my professional plugins on it. So now I'm happy that I'm looking for something else. I'm not doing some voiceover work, so I mean I might just let this go, but I do want to record voice. And as you said, it's not like a regular saw. So I think I'm moving away from it. But I mean, if all you're doing is recording like this or something,
you might be able to get away with it. I mean, the real problem with Audacity is that when you want to apply an effect to it, you apply an effect to the track, and then it's applied to the track. It's not. You can't change it later.
Right. You can't undo.
You can't undo it without undoing everything that came before it.
Right.
It's pretty horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, it was okay before, but it's horrible.
yeah, it's horrible.
All right, and then Mac people have GarageBand or
Which is okay.
ProLogic.
Is it okay?
Yeah, that's
Or-
okay. I have
Because I mean, I
GarageBand on
have
my.
a Mac.
GarageBand is- GarageBand is not bad, and it feeds up to Logic. And Logic is expensive and extremely powerful.
Okay, but I probably didn't need that.
No, you probably don't. The difference with a lot of these, the free version is versus the other versions are things like you can only record 2 tracks at a time, or something like that. And for most of what we want to do, that's not a limitation. Okay, it's you're going to record 1 or 2 tracks, and then you may go back and put some layers of other tracks on top of it. But you're only going to record 1 or 2 tracks at a time. Maybe I think one version I saw had a limit of 128 tracks. Well, you can do a hell of a lot in 128 tracks. Okay, especially you're going to get burned out if you're recording a couple of tracks at a time. So that's not much of a limitation, really, when you get down to it. So, but if you need to get really, really crazy about it, then you've got an upgrade kit. You just have to spend the money. And it may not be horrible, but you're going to start out for free. So,
Sounds like cakewalks the way to go.
you'll see. You may decide that, my God, this looks complicated. Okay, well, they want to hook you into your commercial product. It's the same thing. It's always been the same way.
Premium.
Yeah, Cakewalk by Dan Lynn. All right, you want headphones. First, if the first it's free, then you pay. You'll want headphones. Your speakers are not really good. They don't have good fidelity. Plus, you'll want to listen to what you're recording. And if you listen through the PC speaker, you're going to get feedback. So I brought along 2 different sets of headphones. These are relatively expensive. I don't know, $100. Sennheiser HD 280 Pros. This is a Sony V150, MDR V150. These are about $30 or less. They work great, and they're extremely light and comfortable.
So it looks like do you prefer ones that are like full cut?
I prefer full cup myself, but also that's because I'm now wearing hearing aids and they need to go over my hearing aids.
But I mean, in terms of like sound blocking, do you like ones that you can hear through, or do you like ones that are?
I prefer not to hear it too. That's a term called open back or closed back. Okay, open back microphones or open back earphones have actual holes, and you can hear from the outside as well as what's coming in from the speakers themselves. I prefer closed back, which they cut yourself off from the outside world.
I prefer anything that cuts me off from the inside.
More quarter-inch connectors. So you'll want a pair of headphones, but the Sonys are good. They have good sound, and they're about $30.
Not $20 set.
Earbuds, no. Earbuds are not comfortable. Headphone sound quality is better. So there you go, $30 for a pair of Sonys. Okay, so that is about it, assuming you got your PC. So microphone, $100 to $130. Audio interface, $100. Free software, bits and pieces. I forgot to put the mic stand on there, but it turns out if you look around, you can find a package that has a mic stand included. So you're in the range of $250 to $300. Okay. So that's part 1. You get to go shopping. I love helping people shop. And you say you walk into Guitar Center or someplace like that, or you go to Sweetwater, and you go into their microphone room, and you look to see, oh my God, there are microphones that range from. I ordered something from Guitar Center once, and they accidentally included in the box, it was Sweetwater, a microphone that was brand name Star Power 9.
Oh my.
I looked it up. It looked like a Shure SM58, but it was $17 in their catalog.
Yeah, that's like buying microphones from Wish.
Yeah,
Mark,
Where you'll get a Shure
so I called them and I said, hey, you sent me this microphone by mistake. Shit, when that's on sale, it's $9. Keep it.
Oh my God.
I was going to send it back to him. Who knows? I've got it. It's buried in the bottom of a box. It may actually have an interesting sound that might be worthy of something. I just don't know what yet.
They're very, the really cheap ones are very.
It wouldn't surprise me.
About a 10-year-old.
Yeah, I was just going to say, give it to a kid, here, or take
Star
it to
Power.
the Star Power 9 microphone. Woo!
Pattern is really important. I was singing with a group a couple months ago, and there were 3 of us that were going to harmonize around a mic,
Mhm.
and they didn't have an omnidirectional mic, and that's really critical because otherwise we all kind of had to.
And your heads are all right. Your heads are all right next to each other.
So I realized I went through my whole collection. I realized I didn't have one anymore. So I literally went out. I called all the music shops. I'm like, this is what I need. And so I bought another blue mic, and it's my first XLR.
Well, the reason the Audio Technica, which sounds really good, has the 2050 has switchable patterns. One of the patterns is on it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't why I bought it, but because I don't need the Omni. But I'll talk about recording techniques later.
Super handy once in a while.
Yeah, once in a while.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the next question: where are you going to record? You need a place to record. It needs to be a quiet place without a lot of room noise. I've recorded stuff with a condenser microphone, and before every take, we had to go in and turn off the refrigerator and the air conditioner, because otherwise it was all over the recording. So you need a place that doesn't have a lot of room noise. Bedrooms are good. Yeah, dogs. Bedrooms are not just, listen, I'll come back to that in a second. Bedrooms are popular because it's got a lot of soft surfaces to help absorb sound.
Podcasters often will record into a closet, but then they just
Yep,
stand back.
right? You can stand up and record into your closet because it's got soundproof. You're behind the microphone. You hang blankets around the room. You need to reduce the outside sound, turn off the air conditioning, turn off the neighborhood.
So you want a dead space.
Well, dead is better.
Our
Okay.
neighbors record their music at night.
I was just going to say, you wouldn't be the first person to record something at 3 o'clock in the morning. Because, yeah. Well, when I was working on the idea of recording a choir group in a church, the idea of recording at 3 o'clock in the morning to reduce traffic noise suddenly becomes a very good idea, because all you have to do is hope a cop doesn't go flying past with sirens on, because that'll kind of screw that take up. But yeah, you'd like a dead space, but rooms don't have to be dead as long as you want the sound of the room, which is again why you think about listening to Gregorian chants, for one example. Part of the sound of the cathedral is a big part of the sound, period.
And more than one rock band use bathrooms because of the reverb.
Mhm.
So I mean, it just depends on what you're looking for.
Bare naked ladies, the bathroom sessions.
Yeah. So
Concrete silos.
yeah, any number of things all of these are possible, but they're not. For beginning bard types, probably this is not something you're going to be worried about
Right.
at the beginning. And besides, you can add a bunch of that later. Yes?
Would you be willing to consulting about a cable problem?
Oh,
Would you be willing to leave your projector in here through the day for the rest of the Zoom
Sure.
sessions in this room?
Yeah.
Okay,
I'll go set up mine in the other room then.
thank you. Be right back.
Is it David Byrne, Talking Heads, has a marvelous talk on the history of music and the space in which
yeah.
it was
It's how.
performed.
Yes, I have his book. It's a phenomenal. Even just the first chapter
It is, yeah.
is a phenomenal read on how music evolved with the space and how spaces evolved with music. Yeah. All right. Or you can do one of these nifty little stands that I went out and bought because it was like $30.
I used to work in a restaurant, and I would save the egg crates,
Yep.
from the cake to the bag. I had lots.
Oh, good.
Have an online voice actor.
So this can mount on the microphone stand, put the microphone in front of it, kills all the sound coming from behind. Also kills reflections, because if you stand and talk at a wall, the sound is going to bounce back off the wall.
I did a voiceover for a game once where I actually use that. I put the mic in front of a window and project it into the window to get that echo.
Right. That's an optional. You do not need that. It's nice to have, but you don't need it because, as we pointed out, that was from a company called Monoprice. Monoprice has a bunch of really useful stuff. But you can also record facing into a closet, which is pretty much the same thing if you don't mind looking like a dummy talking to your closet.
Would never record in front of someone anyway, so.
I also came across one once where you take a plastic milk crate and you line it with acoustic foam.
Yeah.
That or those little collapsible fabric things that you can get at Target, the cube, collapsible cubes. But then you go and get real acoustic foam, not just the type of stuff you get at Joann's. When you go to get Aralex or some other real good acoustic foam, and you just line 5 sides of it or 4 sides of it, and put the microphone in there, and that works really well. Looks weird. This is called an isolation panel, and there are several different varieties, and they range in price. Okay, recording an instrument, and this picture sort of gives you an idea of what you end up having to do. And this is one reason I don't like using a pickup, or certainly not a pickup by itself, is because pickup doesn't give you all of the sound of an instrument. I'm especially a fan of finger squeaks on a guitar neck as you're going up and down the strings, because that makes the whole thing feel like the guitar player sitting in front of you. Okay, it adds a lot of character to the guitar, so you'd like to be able to pick that up. A pickup doesn't do that. Now, that said, recording instruments there are college courses on how to record instruments. Okay, when I do Subterranean consists of mostly strings. There'll be somebody with a violin and their bow, and the microphone's right here. Okay, pointing less than 6 inches away, and it's an SM57, by the way. Less than 6 inches away, pointing about where the F holes are. And yeah, means that the player has to avoid smacking it with their bow or something like that. Recording an instrument requires a fair amount of discipline. But typically, you start out by recording by pointing the microphone at the sound source. Maybe use more than one microphone. There are lots of different sound techniques. You can go on YouTube and see video after video after video of people recording, setting up to record instruments. If I'm really working on a guitar and I want a particular sound, I'll use at least 2. One pointed at the sound hole and one pointed at about the 12th fret. Okay, and these are directional microphones. Now, and it's really convenient because I got 2 inputs here, so I can record 2 different microphones, and you'll see how that works in a bit. But if I'm recording just a straight up instrument, I'm going to try and record at least 2 tracks. If I've got more, I may put another microphone up above, aimed down. There are technical issues around that too, which we can talk about later if you want to get really crazy. You want the microphones to generally be the same distance from the instrument for a technical reason called speed of sound. And if I'm really crazy, I'll put one in the back and kind of help record the room. But if you only got 2, but you can sit there and you can try all kinds of different ways of recording. This is a much more expensive microphone than he's using there, but it's a pencil condenser. You have to bring along a pencil condenser that is directional. These are all directional. They tend to record what's coming from in front of you, which is sort of what you want, and they tend to reject sound coming from the back, which is what you want. So, there you go. We'll point this at somewhere around the sound hole. I know one guy that would actually say, all right, and I think there's a video of him. All right, listen to the sound, and he starts moving the microphone. Listen to how the sound changes as he moves up the neck. Find a place that you like and stop.
I have a pencil pins on my video setup is actually adjustable.
Mhm.
It's got two settings. Height.
Mhm. Whether if you're recording if you've got a good sounding room, you're recording the room sound, you're going to want to do something different than if you're recording in your bedroom and you're going to add effects later. There are many different ways of doing it. The pickup, though, certainly will work, but you don't get all the character of the instrument. And unless you're really, really, really good, the character of the instrument is going to make up a large part of the character of the recording.
Slop covers the space.
I talk about it.
I actually, all right, well, we talked about this during the editing part, but recording Subterranea once, and somebody hit the microphone with the bow in the middle of what was otherwise a very good take. I'm recording everybody at once, so I mean, there's like 5 people around, and it was a good take. So what do? Well, everybody was playing at that point, and I was not recording the room, and I was not recording with reverb. I'll get to that later. So I go into the editor, and I find that thing. It's very obvious in the editor, and I just mute for about 1/10 of a second. Just that channel for 1/10 of a second, just long enough to get rid of the bang. It didn't come across any other microphones. There was no microphone bleed on that, and there was enough other stuff going on that you couldn't hear that instrument disappear for 1/10 of a second. So, yeah. Well, and what am I going to do, right? They're all amateur musicians. They're not used to playing with microphones.
And it went to California.
Yeah, that's right. If they did it more than once, we might have words. But the one time, no, it was. So it was fine.
You only have to make
I fixed it. You fix it in post. Now, the reason you don't record those reverb is because, or in a big room like that, is because not only do you have, if you try to take that top out, well, that top has effects that follow the sound in reverb, for example, and you can't wipe that out. So that should be things like reverb you put in later.
Yeah, and that's the question. Why would you ever want to support the reverb? I mean,
You might like the sound. Maybe you've got a reverb that you really, really like.
but can you put that in your phone?
Sometimes.
Depends on how your rig is set up.
It depends on where your reverb's coming from too.
Okay.
If it's room, then maybe not.
Oh, yeah,
If you're actually recording the room.
Yeah. Okay.
There are ways, if you've got a really nice reverb unit you want to use, there are ways to do it. We'll come back to that. But generally speaking, don't record with any effects whatsoever. None. Okay, so now we're ready to record, right? We're going to connect the microphone to the interface, and we're going to connect the interface to the PC, and we're going to fire up the package and create a soundtrack to record into, and we're going to hit record and go. No, we're not. Because you need to get your piece ready to record. And that means practice, 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 right? How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice. You need to be able to roll through the piece comfortably. If you don't, if you get partway through and you screw it up, you're going to be, okay, in a live situation, you might bunch a note and just roll on past it, keep going, right? Okay, just keep playing. You don't want to do that in a recording. You can, now maybe if you want, you could record the same track over and over and bunch it to different places and then mix the tracks together. That's a perfectly viable thing to do. It happens all the time. But you should be comfortable enough to roll through the piece and play it without stopping. Practice, practice, practice. And it's legit to practice with a metronome, or to play, in fact, record it with a metronome. That's too fast.
But there's a piece I recorded in the mid-'80s in a professional studio, and many layers, and it's really nice, but I can hear myself kind of sliding all over, and I drove that recording engineer crazy. We were there for 4 hours.
There's nothing wrong with recording and practicing with, and in fact, initial recording with a metronome. We'll talk about how to deal with that here when we get to the actual demonstration part. But that is it is completely legit. In fact, it is so legit that most pieces of software include something called a click track, which is a metronome that is generated by the software. And it is, you listen to it in your headphones, and it is perfectly repeatable because it is generated by the software. So it'll always hit exactly the same place, and you can play to a click track. Now, I have threatened Pintan with putting a click track in their headphones when they play. They scream at me because it is. No, it makes it sound. They think it makes it sound too artificial. But on the other hand, Dave Grohl, back when he was recording, still recording, but back in the day, his drummer was all. I think he a drummer.
He's a drummer.
He's a drummer. He was all over the place. That's right. The story was he was all over the place. And recording rock, you can't have that really. So they fed him a click track, and he steadied right up, and it was perfect.
Well, it's a biological reality. You will
Speed up.
Well, no, you will match that track. I mean, that's what we do. And so a click track just forces your body into that track.
So click tracks there's absolutely nothing wrong with a click track. Will it make your piece feel a little less organic? Maybe. Depends on what you're recording.
There's a couple of pieces that I do that I know are very organic. I mean, the tempo very much is that.
Yeah.
In fact, we tried to do a double take on that in Pat's basement. It was like, no, I got to do it. I got to do voice and guitar at the same time.
Right.
It's not going to work.
It depends.
Because this is my click track.
Yeah.
Depends on the piece.
Yeah.
A good guitar player will be pretty steady rhythm all the time.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, a lot of folks are not necessarily that good because they don't play all the time.
Well,
Bard is a part-time thing.
It's just this piece. It breathes.
Well, there's that too. It depends on what it is because some pieces they're going to naturally just be faster parts and slower parts. And you're going to be coasting through it. It depends on what you're recording. If it's a purely verbal thing, you're doing a bardic recitation kind of thing.
Spoken word.
Some spoken word recording, then that's going to vary all over the place, and that's fine. Some of these techniques won't apply there. Well, you'll see. Okay, other thing, tuning.
Yes.
Okay, tune incessantly. You have to tune before every take. Everybody tunes before every take. Especially if you get this to the point where you're going to take two takes and splice them together in one form or another. Whether it's a case of record it twice and then take the best parts of each one and combine them, you can't do that if one track is not tuned with the next. You need to tune all the damn time.
Or if you're going to lay them on top of each other.
Yes. Oh yeah. Okay. Now we're probably ready to record. So how do we do that? What do we do? First thing you do is you're going to record yourself playing whole. It depends. In we call it a scratch track. We call it a guide track. This track is not going to make it into the final recording. You're going to take your microphone. You're going to put it more or less in front of you. You can use the metronome if you need the metronome, because the microphone will pick up the metronome. We don't care. Then you record the piece. You sit down and hit go and record the piece. If you screw up, start over. Just throw it away and start over. If you want a good, solid recording that you like, that you go all the way through the piece nonstop. Okay? And you say, okay, now you're going to use that as a reference. You're going to sit down and stand up actually, because you should sing standing up. And you're going to reconfigure the microphone to record your voice. Which means you're going to set the microphone in front of the closet or whatever. You're going to put the pop filter on, and you're going to sing standing up, and you're going to remember to not wander back and forth. The microphone is sitting in one spot in front of you, and you're going to put yourself, I mean, okay, live, I'll have my lips brushing the microphone. Don't necessarily have to do that here, but you're going to be, the microphone like right here, and you're going to stay there.
And with the
Not going to move.
I don't,
But don't put your nose on the pop filter, because then you'll get bumped.
no Ray Charles.
No, definitely not. Well, okay, I mean, if you wanted to buy a headset mic, we had to do that for Karen and Fintan. She just tended to wander all over hell. And I mean, holding microphone stand, she's just all over the place. So we finally got her a headset. You know, the microphone comes down here in front of her mouth, and now that's no longer a problem. She doesn't, you know, she can wander all she wants. Then you're going to set your recording levels. We will talk about that. But you're going to get you want the recording loud but not clipping, and you're going to put on the headphones. And now you're going to set up the software, so we're going to play the guide track and listen to it. And this is where the playback part of this thing comes in. There's a knob. There are several knobs here, but one of these knobs will take in relative levels of you talking in here and the sound coming from the PC. So you adjust that so that you can hear yourself, but you can also hear the sound coming from the computer. All right. And then you set the volume. It's also got a volume control. So there's a mix control that's sound from the PC versus sound from the microphone. And then the overall volume so that it's comfortable. So that you can hear yourself and you can hear the PC, because you're going to sing along with yourself. You're going to sing along with that guide recording. And that's how you know where the guitar hits are, for example. Because you don't have to guess, you hear your guitar in your head, in your ears. If you don't like hearing your voice in your ears, well, there are other ways that we can deal with that. But you're going to be basically singing along. A lot of people don't like the way they sound. And that's because when you talk, you're getting sound coming from the ear, but you're also getting sound coming through the bones. And you sound different to you than you sound to everybody else. And you listen to yourself and you're going, who the hell is that? So there are other ways to deal with that. But now you're going to sing along with your guide. Yeah.
Is there an issue with most PCs and their sound cards? Can they handle duplex well?
Some can, some can't. That's why another reason we're using these.
But
I mainly use that because the audio chain is much better.
But I mean, but the hard drive.
Oh, hard drive's not going to be a problem.
Well, actually, no hard drive, but you're still playing back and recording simultaneously.
Yeah, and it's fun. The hardware can handle it.
Right. Didn't use to.
I'm actually leaning for using my Zoom, not the little one, but I have one that has multiple inputs now. Because it sounds like it might actually work better. It'd be easier for me to handle than trying to talk back and forth between the computer while
Well, I don't know. It's just, I'm recording over here, computer's over there. I've done that before. I've added drum tracks in later. And so I put the microphone and the drum over here, record and turn around and start going. Okay, the metronome, if you recorded it, will be in your ears because you're listening through the headphones, but it's not going to appear in the final, it's not going to appear in the recording. And if you script it over, or you can complete the recording and do it again. You can create another track and record it again. You can do that as many times as you want. You can save it. You can want to save multiples. If you want to sing harmony with yourself, you can do that. You wouldn't be the first person to do that either. Then, once you're done with that and you've got a decent vocal recording, now you're going to do it again, only this time you're going to configure to record your instrument. Okay? So now you're going to sit down, you're going to put the microphones kind of in front of you, pointed. If you're playing a guitar, it can be pointed somewhere, pointed at the strings. Try either the sound hole or the 12th fret, or maybe both if you've got two microphones, because you can mix them in later. And then you're going to do the same thing, only this time you're not going to sing, and you're going to record it dry, and you're going to record, then you're going to record an instrument track playing along with your guide track. And you'll hear yourself singing. Don't sing during this recording, or hum, or anything. Just play your piece. Play the audio part of your piece. Okay. If you want to do multiple guitars, you can do that. There might be a very good reason to do that. There's nothing that says that your recording has to sound like the way you sound at an SCA event. So if you wanted to record the guitar track twice and then blend them together, you can do that, and it makes for a much fatter and more interesting sound, especially because there's no way you're going to hit the same note on the same string exactly at the same time. So it's going to ultimately, it's going to sound like more instruments, and it's going to fatten the sound up. Yeah. And that's good. You can do that as much as you want. You can do that with, like I said, you can harmonize with your own vocals if you want. This is all perfectly legit. You just have to decide what you want the recording to sound like. I was doing some research, because we're talking about the next FinCan recording. I was doing some research on the Phil Spector Wall of Sound. Okay, and to see how he did it. And he did it with, among other things, okay, let's say you've got a keyboard. So he would record 3 keyboards. He'd record a piano and an electric piano and some other stuff, and then he would mix them together to make this huge fat sound that didn't sound like any particular keyboard that you'd ever heard of before, but it sounded really, really good. You know, this is all perfectly doable if that's the way you want to do it, and if you want to put your time into it. Maybe you don't want to do that on the first go round, but later on, as you want to get a little bit more sophisticated, then you also have to decide: do I want to record stuff that doesn't sound like what I am live? Well, that's your call. If you're the artist, you can do that if you want. You're going to add one track at a time. You're going to add a harmony lines if you want. I like the idea of recording multiple passages with the guitar.
Yeah. When I did Soul Cake, I can play both lines simultaneously, but I recorded it separately. So I recorded just the bass line, I recorded the treble line, and a third line of playing them both, and we layered them. And it's if I was just hitting on time, it'd be a lot better. But it still holds up.
Well, you know, you can actually fix that in the DAW.
Well, now I could, yeah.
But back then, probably not, but you could actually think, okay, here's a guitar line, and I see I'm about a 30-second note late on that one, so I'm just going to select that and reach it over to the side just a little bit here to bring it into line. But, you know, then again, you're not only are you achieving a sound that you couldn't achieve live, you're more perfect than you could be live. Is that what you want? If that's what you want, then, you know, Bob's your uncle. You can do it.
It would take 3 of me to do that live.
Some people sound better when they have a lot of processing. Some people sound worse. The same thing is true about instruments. You know, some people are just super sloppy on songs that don't require it, and other people, you really want those. But
It depends on, it depends on what you want your recording to sound like. And this is all artist decision, or this is the sort of discussion you have with your producer if you have a producer. Like I will be producing, me and William will be producing the next FinCan album. Producer is the one who cracks the whip over the
project manager.
Yeah. I finally found out what the difference is between a producer and an executive producer. The producer gets the project out the door. The executive producer finds the money. Okay. All right. Let's see. Tips and tricks while you're recording. Multiple microphones per instrument. This is perfectly legit. We talked about that earlier. If you've got two microphones, you can point them both at the instrument. Maybe use the dynamic up close and the condenser a little further back, because they all have different sound characteristics. Record the melody line more than once. We talked about that, because you can use that to fix the crunch, or you can just go ahead and combine them both in the mix. At this point, it is useful to have a sheet of paper that you write down things like, okay, here's what's on track 1, here's what's on track 2, here's what's on take 1, here's what's on take 2. Take 2, 37 seconds in, I screwed up. You know, that way you don't have to like look for it on the screen or listen to it over, because you're going to listen to this thing over and over anyway. You want to write down, okay, this is good up to here, then I screwed up for 5 seconds, if you're listening to playback and you're making notes while you're playing it back, that kind of thing. So it's really good to write this stuff down. Save it, and you save your project, and you take a break.
One other thing that I learned when doing voiceovers, when I did software, is swish water when you're recording vocal lines, because it cuts the mucus. You can hear those clicks and pops from your just because your saliva gets thick.
Yeah.
And so swish water, and that makes a huge difference. And I can hear it.
Or go partway through and then stop and then pick it up again.
Take a break.
And nothing wrong with that. There are multiple recording techniques there. One is where it's called punch in, punch out, where you're playing along. You listen to this track, you're listening, then you start singing along with it. Then you hit the record button while it's still playing, and now it's recording as opposed to playing back. And then this is less of an issue now than it was in mag tape days. When you didn't have that many tracks available, you would punch in and start recording all of a sudden over the bad area, and then punch out when you got done. Now you just record another track, and you can switch between tracks or splice them in and out.
Yeah, you're not slicing.
And you're not messing,
With the
slicing
razor
the tape.
blade.
And trying to do that kind of thing with an 8 or 16 track tape is nearly impossible to get right.
My first album I did on a 4-track casting, and I bounced tracks so many times. You know.
So now you can bounce, bouncing tracks is trivial, or just add another track.
Yeah.
This is where having a limit of 128 tracks might become an issue, but maybe not.
It's good for voiceovers, but I can't really imagine using it these days for using it for music, because it's just so much more sonically complex. But for voiceover, I'm sure we'll super it.
It's interesting. You listen to a lot of, especially mid-70s, late 70s, Jethro Tull. Ian Anderson is double and triple tracking his vocals.
Yeah.
You listen to that, so how are you getting that? No, okay. Now that you know what to listen for, like, okay, right.
Right. Again, that I've seen them live. I've got them recording. They don't sound the same.
Nope.
This is actually why I really enjoy listening to like 50s early rock and roll and like guitar, because it's really super simple working. So you hear all the fingers, you hear everything.
Okay.
The other thing too is it was mixed. Crappy, condensed as hell, because it's going to be played over a 3-inch AM radio speaker.
Right.
Okay, now that you've got it all done, the recording all done, now you're going to start editing it, which involves removing the bad bits and arranging the good bits so it makes it sound like it's a coherent whole. In DAW software, you can do this a whole lot easier than you used to be able to. But all of this works better if you don't have to work around effects. If I needed to move, I guarantee you reverb's not going to sound the same between 2 tracks, even 2 takes of the same track or the same bit. So if I have to switch between tracks, the reverb is going to sound ugly as sin. And so there are, okay, distortion, no problem. If you're doing electric guitar and you're recording distortion, that's okay.
Yeah.
But anything that involves anything that happens after the note is played, like reverb or delay, typically.
Chorus.
Well, yes and no.
I've recorded a ton of stuff with chorus on my first one. And some of it I listen to and I go,
But all of that is impossible to edit around.
Yeah.
So you do not record with those effects. You add them later. This is why you do record with reverb.
Right.
So mixing is where you take your tracks and you start doing things to make it sound like it's all one piece. And there are entire college courses. Well, you go to recording school, School of Rock, or places like that. Sweetwater up in Fort Wayne has entire sessions on how to do that. You pay several $1,000s to learn, and there are lots of books. But you're going to start small and you're going to work your way up. There's tons of stuff like this that you'll see when you start looking at Cakewalk. Gazillions of bits and pieces of how you can do all kinds of weird ass shit. I don't typically use that much, but I may stop using Cakewalk simply because it's got way more than I need. But on the other hand, some plugins that I really like. So I go back and put the plugins later, add plugins for reverb and stuff later. You will use equalization, which is where maybe your instrument is louder, sounds louder in the high notes than it does on the low notes. That's really common. But you want to boost that up, so equalization is a tool for doing that. You will use compression, which reduces the difference between the loud parts and the not loud parts. Now, sometimes you do that simply because you want to just level things out. But somebody once discovered a trick, and I use this trick now. Apparently, it was a top trade secret for a long time. I will take a track, typically a vocal track, and I will duplicate it, and I will compress the hell out of the duplicate part, and then I'll mix them back together. Okay. So now it has this tendency to fatten up the sound and gives the sound of the singer more oomph without blowing away their dynamics. I don't bring the compressed track back in at the same level that I want that their initial recording is at, but it's up there underneath, and they're obviously synchronized because of the duplicate track, and it really adds punch to the voice. That works well on guitars too. This was a trade secret for a long time. People knew how to do it. They wouldn't talk about it because it gave them the sound, that Joe Schmo sound. You can tell that Joe Schmo had edited this track. Well, now of course it's like bang bang. You can do it.
Is compression also how you get that old timey microphone sound?
No, that's a band test.
Yeah.
The old timey microphones did not pick up. Frequencies in hertz, usable frequencies are around 30 hertz up to 25,000 or so, depending on your hearing. My hearing isn't that good anymore, so I don't go that high. So if you record the full frequency, you get what you're hearing here. But those microphones might only record or pick up, say, 300 to 3,000.
So compression is just dynamic.
Yeah, compression is nothing but volume.
Okay.
Now it starts getting tricky because you can do things with compression and have it kick in later. So, for example, on a drum hit, you don't necessarily want to compress that initial boom on the drum, but then right afterwards you have it kick in, and it holds up the tail of the sound.
Right.
Same with a guitar. You pluck the guitar, you get that initial pop, and then the sound kind of fades away.
Right.
So you might use compression after it kicks in just after the initial attack, and it holds up the body sound longer. Again, compression is a science, a weird ass science unto itself.
Because you talk about drums, there was a thing in the 80s that it started out as an accident in recording.
Oh, yeah.
And all of a sudden it was like, oh my God, that's this incredible sound. And so that ubiquitous rock 80s, very clipped.
So that was a single,
drum.
what that came from is they used a single mic over the drum.
Mm-hmm.
And it gated the drum.
Yeah.
as what happened.
Gate, right.
It gated the drums, you know, you're right, it's the iconic.
Gate is right. Gate is compression turned up to 11. Gate turns off the volume as soon as the sound drops to the lowest level, it shuts it off,
Right,
and that's like super compression.
right,
Compression right down to nothing.
right, and
And it's I use that live when I don't want people to pick up people when they're talking off to the side or doing something else, or there's the bike is picking up the people next to them at a really low level, so I'll turn on the gate so that it doesn't let them through because they're not loud enough. The trick with that though is gates sometimes take a little time to start to open up, and so when somebody starts talking, the gate is a little behind them, and you miss their initial quarter second or so when they start talking. So that's tricky.
Who missed?
Yeah.
You missed. Yeah.
You want to adjust the levels of the different instruments or different tracks so that they match up with what they need to be. You don't want the guitar overwhelming the voice or the voice overwhelming the guitar. Related to that is playing with the stereo image where you say, okay, because all of these things have been recorded in mono, by the way. But when you're listening in stereo and you say, all right, I want to separate the instruments, and I've got multiple instruments, I'm going to put the violin over here, and I'm going to put the drums in the center, and I'm going to put the lead guitar over here, maybe not way over there, but over here somewhat, so that there's some audible separation in where the instruments are. And especially when you have instruments that occupy the same frequency range, like say the fiddle and the penny whistle. If you you can't necessarily tell them apart because they sound a lot alike and their frequency range is a lot alike. So by separating them in space, you can make them more different here. Yeah, you
because
make
for like a single, if you're just recording yourself with a single instrument, you're probably not going to separate that.
no, but you're going to want some kind of a stereo image.
Yeah.
And there are ways to do that too.
I have a guitar that needs to be repaired, but the piezo pickups are even and odd stringed out to different channels. And so when I'm doing a finger picking thing,
That would be interesting.
yeah, the finger picking thing is down to
I
the back.
I don't know that I've separated that far.
It was really very cool. It was very cool.
All right. Then this is when you add in reverb and other types of effects, distortion effects. You might consider adding, doing them separately, but having reverb of one character on your instrument and reverb of another character on your voice just sounds weird. So a lot of times I will add it at the end when everything's mixed into the final track is where the reverb goes, so that it all sounds like it was recorded in the same room at the same time, which is all the same reverb.
All right.
Yeah, well, it does, but some things people say about that. I really like to use this reverb sound of this guitar. Okay, so you put the reverb on the guitar. Then if you don't have reverb on the voice, for example, then it sounds really curious. If that's what you're going for, hey, great. But most people don't want that.
I see the thing that we had some of that on the first center down.
Yeah.
We had a little bit of reverb here and no reverb there, and
Plus the fact that the sound mixes together, and if the reverb doesn't mix together the same as the sound does, it's going to make your head scratch.
But with early 60s rock and roll, you have that flat plate reverb on the Fender amp, which is it's not a room reverb. It's an amp reverb,
Right.
and so it's fine.
But yeah, and now you're defining a guitar sound, guitar only sound.
Right.
Okay.
at a time period almost.
Well, but even then,
No, okay. No, that is true too. The type of instruments we play, we may want a unique sound profile.
but that's going to land on top of the room sound. So if you've got reverb going in the room, because you're emulating a cathedral, okay, and there are cathedral settings on your reverb. Well, you brought your instrument in, and the instrument has that sound, your plate reverb sound already. So now you've got two reverbs layered on top of each other. And that's fine, because your instrument sound has its own sound.
Still want to have the overall.
Right, you want the overall thing to sound the same, so you do reverb at the end.
Yeah, there's an interesting instrument that I just saw a demo of. It's like a harp guitar, kind of like cross between a harp guitar and a doorbell. And the bass strings resonate. So if you don't mute them, the instrument has a natural reverb.
Oh, yeah, I saw that video.
Yeah.
I think I saw that video.
Yeah.
The guy was giggling the whole time.
Yeah. It's a little bitty thing. And it's like down cue.
Ring.
Okay, so mixing is you're gonna end up listening to each track over and over and over and tweak them. Maybe there's this, I'm not speaking from experience or anything, but maybe your lead singer has this little buzz in her voice that you need to like drop a little notch filter on to kind of eliminate it, because otherwise it's like listening to fingers on the blackboard over and over and over.
You might not gender your lead singer like that, because it kind of.
Or you know, or God love him, William has a guitar where one note just blasts out. I don't know why. And I said, oh, God, what the hell am I going to do to that? So, you know, I'm going to take an equalizer and put a little tiny, and watch the equalization as it's playing and try and figure out where that spike is from that extra loud note, and then put an equalizer on it that kind of cuts it down some, you know.
One of my guitars is, as
You know, now that you've mentioned it, yeah, he does. Why?
one of my guitars is like galloping derby. It has a natural resonant frequency, and when I hit that note, you know it.
So maybe, you know, so I'm going to drop an equalizer into that, put on that, just that channel, and kind of notch it down a little bit to bring it into line with stuff. You know, these are this is when you're applying all these tools over and over, and you're tweaking. You can add all of these. This is why you use a DAW as opposed to a Audacity, because you can drop these effects in on an individual channel.
Right.
Or in the case of if I'm doing the vocal thing, where I with the compressor, I'll take the two channels and I'll mix them together into one. It's called a bus, which is a separate sound carrying line with multiple sub channels feeding into it. And then I'll put effects, because now I've got 2 or 3 copies of the same vocal. I will take that and put that effect on the bus, so it affects all of those tracks at the same time in exactly the same way, as opposed to trying to make them all match separately. And I do that with the drums, or I'll do that with the violin. You know, each one might get its own bit of equalization or whatever, and they're all feeding down into ultimately the final mix. And you're going to listen to the mix over and over and adjust the level between the instruments. In many cases, you may say, all right, I want to bring the instruments up during the break, you know, between lines in the song or whatever. So you're going to apply the tools there as well, but you're also, okay, a lot of these have an automation thing where you can draw a line that says, here's the level. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to maybe bring the instruments up a little bit during the break and bring them back down a little bit, so that, you know, it doesn't sound like all of a sudden a big chunk of the sound field has dropped out because the singer's not singing at this moment. So I'm going to, you know, boost just during the break, I'm going to boost the levels of the instruments a bit.
And like there's like stuff.
And maybe not all the instruments. I may go through and say, well, the drum doesn't need to come up. It should stay where it's at, but I'm going to bring the guitar up a little bit or something.
Yeah.
And these are all artistic decisions that you're going to do, or I'm going to go in and edit out that damn microphone dip where the person accidentally bumped into the microphone. And it will take time. It will take patience.
Take a break.
Yeah, I tell you, when I did Subterraneous last album, I was over 100 hours mixing that thing. Good grief. And yeah, well, that's what it takes. You know, and this was during, well, not to mention I also had a time limit because we wanted it out for SU50. So I was spending hours every night sitting there in front of the computer. My contribution to the Middle Ages was sitting in front of a computer for 100 plus hours, screwing around with this damn helmet.
Wow, that was before you were retired.
Yeah, exactly right. Plus the pictures too, but yeah, they're pounding away at this thing, literally. You know, it was a haul, but it was stuff that you needed to do. And then okay, here's a tentative mix, send it out to everybody else, and they send their comments back. Of course, if you're doing yourself, then you know, maybe you ask your significant other or something, what do you think of this one? Okay, but then ultimately, you're going to get it done. Oh my God, I'm going to ship it. How do you know?
Okay, let me ask you a question. What is
Mastering is.
mean, I think I'll ask this, I have
Let me come back. Let me come back to that in a second. When you're done, what are you going to do with it? You're going to take the output from the draw and you're going to create a file. And that file is probably a stereo track of your finished product. Now, what are you going to do with it? You're going to, you might use it to burn CDs. I say might because when was the last time you saw a CD player in a new car?
Yeah.
CDs are,
Or on a new laptop.
yeah, CDs are going away.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, you still go to a live show and buy a CD, but then people buy the CD and they go, okay, now what? Because you don't have a way to play it at home anymore.
I legitimately thought that if I ever get an album recorded and get out playing, I'm gonna sell. Instead of selling CDs, I'm gonna sell the access code to the digital.
That's one way to do it.
Video online.
That's one way to do it. Or Bandcamp, iTunes, except I don't know, you can sell gifts to iTunes. CD Baby used to be able to sell download cards. CD Baby doesn't sell CDs anymore.
Come on.
You can upload it. A lot of people have switched to Bandcamp.
Yeah.
You go to CD Baby, that's how you get it onto iTunes and Spotify. And that's how, so CD Baby is where you get, how you get it to iTunes. And a lot of people will buy stuff on iTunes. You can convert it to MP3s yourself and then put it on a flash drive and sell them off flash drives. That would work. Except that most people can't put a flash drive in their phone. So how are they going to get it on their phone, which is how a lot of people listen to music now. Anyway,
They still haven't started making flash drives with the little.
actually they have.
Have they?
Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go.
Lightning interface.
Yeah.
Or you convert it to MP3 files and hand them out to your friends, put it on your website, whatever.
Google Drive.
Yep, something. All right, so here's the question. How do you know when you're done? Right? If I don't listen to the stuff I recorded with Vinton, because if I listen to it, I'm like, God, I could fix that.
It's too late.
Yeah, it's too late. It's out of the field. How do you know when you're done?
The bottle's empty.
There's a saying. I don't know if you read French. There's a saying. I can't pronounce French for the life of me, so I'm not even going to try. But the work is never done. You just quit. Or yeah, as they used to say in the project management field, sometimes you just have to shoot the engineers and start production.
I may not be done, but I'm finished.
Right.
So back to my question. We got all our music done. And then we went to have it,
Master.
and that's when they asked me. They said, are we going to provide mastering for you, or are you going to do it? What I did was I used a service. But I'm like, what exactly did they do? Because couldn't do that?
They will do one last round of compression, equalization, and tweaking, audio tweaking.
Okay.
And this
Polish.
yeah, and it can make a significant difference depending on what you give them.
Yeah.
But it's, they don't do any editing. The editing is, you've done the editing. You got the relative levels where you want them. But they're going to do things like, they're going to say, all right, we're going to make it so it sounds good in a car. Or we're going to make it so it sounds good in your boat. And that includes things like equalization and some other dynamic type things. you can apply compression to the entire song, the entire mix, and they will do things like that. You can, there's at least one AI mastering service that I know of that will, you can upload a sample. I want this to sound like Marina McKenna. And so you upload a Marina McKenna song, and they figure out the settings in that and apply those settings to yours.
Really?
Yeah,
What is that, Lander or? Is
I
it-
think it might be Lander.
Okay, because I
But
heard about that.
There's it, so, you know,
Yeah.
Oh, it sounds like this artist.
to a certain extent, you will.
Right, they'll give you
I mean,
that.
you're not gonna, okay, I want to sound like, oh God, all right, now I'm blocking on the name.
Katy Perry. There's a good one.
There.
No one can sound like Katy Perry. No. The AI is going to go, are you insane? What is wrong with you? Get help.
Okay.
Or Werewolf in London.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Or
Because, you know,
Neon.
like, when we got this,
Right.
they sounded
If you
good,
have
so I wasn't really sure what they changed.
Here's the thing. Have you ever bought an amateur-produced cassette or CD where you have to keep changing the volume between songs?
Yeah.
Right,
Drives me nuts.
Okay,
right.
so that's what now.
They'll do that too. They'll level it all out so it all sounds at the same volume. You gotta watch that. There was a big sneaky thing about volume wars for a while. I think that's pretty much done now. Though, you can put in compression measuring tools to make sure that what your average loudness is. And then in Europe, actually, if you play stuff on the radio, your average loudness settings can only be, there's a measure called LUFS that measures that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
God damn it, now I'm trying to block.
Well, that's what Queen did at Live Aid,
Mhm.
is they ripped off the tape on the mixing board that says no higher than this. And they went louder than everybody else.
Oh, mixing, I've got all kinds of weird ass stories about mixing lights now. Because you have lots of ones about that. All right, what do you, weird?
The suck knob.
Yeah, turn the suck knob now. No, it was a case of, all right, where are the guys who are going to measure the sound to make sure you're legal versus where are you pointing the speakers? You know, so you point they're here, you point the speakers so that they're pointed at the audience here, and the sound hits there and bounces over the measuring station, and it doesn't sound as loud. And then you go, oh, by the way, Mr. Sound Man, I got this great wine. Here, have some. Okay. All right. Bandcamp, iTunes, Spotify, etc. CD Baby will get you on Spotify and Pandora. There are about 30 different streaming services, including ones that you never hear of because they're all European or Asian. And CD Baby can get you on those. CD Baby will also market your stuff for filmers.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Film.
Yeah, as a
Yeah, and
movie.
they actually will, but, so I have a lot of little friends who, are musicians and produce this. And there's this one group that I listen to, they're not local, they're from like, I don't know, I think they're from Minnesota, I'm not sure. But, I was sitting there watching a movie one day and I'm like, oh my God, that sounds like Marley. It really sounds like Marley. And I went through and I dug through the credits, and it was. And I asked her about it. She said that's how that happened. That they do produce the CD Baby, and they found this sound. The filmmakers found this music, and they used it.
You get it for dirt cheap because
Well, actually, they make quite a bit of money from that. So, it's
Comparatively.
yeah,
well,
it's kind of,
I would assume the filmmaker pays, $100 or so for the track, and then
No, there's $100 to use it, plus there's usage rights.
right, but then every time
And we
you
need
play,
we need to talk about copyright and licensing and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, you want to copyright your stuff. Yeah, really. But this licensing goes two ways, but this is one where you license your stuff to be used someplace else.
Yes.
And, that can turn into, as you said, a lot of money because it's on a per use basis. And how many, if you get licensed to be in a movie, a track gets licensed to be in a movie, that's in wide release, how many times did it get used? Well, it got shown in 3,000 screens and, you know, multiple times per day.
4 times a day.
Ka-ching, 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 ka-ching,
Yeah.
and it starts to pile up. It can pile up really fast. And so having that's why you want to get it in someplace like CD Baby, and you want to get it copyrighted so that that can happen. Now, the other side of that is, what if you want to cover somebody else's work? Okay, which happens, you know. If it's a friend, well, maybe you can do it on a handshake. I'm going to record, she's going to record the piece you did. Maybe you can do that on a handshake. Probably ought to get it in writing. Okay. If you're talking about a published piece that you want to actually do, I want to cover a Jude. I don't know why, but I do. Okay. You can do that. But then you go to some place like the Harry Fox Agency and you tell them, I'm covering Hey Jude. I'm going to make 1,000 copies. I'm going to make 1,000 CDs. That's a lot at our level, but I'm going to make 1,000 CDs. I've never seen 1,000 CDs all at once. I'm going to take up my living room. It's going to cost you 13 cents a copy. All right? And you're going to write them a check or give them your credit card to Harry Fox Agency, and they're going to charge you whatever the going rate is. There's a statutory rate set by law. Now, I think it used to be 8 cents. I think it's gone higher than that. And as long as you're under some number like 10,000. And they're going to charge you for the use of that, and they're going to send you a license, and that says, yes, I am legally allowed to sell my recording of Hey Jude. Okay? I paid for the right to do that.
Okay.
And you're golden. If you don't do that, well, are they going to swat you down? Maybe, maybe not. You're probably not flying not high enough above the radar in order to attract a lot of attention. Unless all of a sudden it goes viral.
Or you get pulled into a movie,
Okay.
you know. Or
Disney.
This is probably a.
Well, the audio clearance
for
got
another class, but just if you could give me a 2-second rundown of what you think of this. So right now I am writing music which is based upon phrases that might or that do come from Lord of the Rings material. And they're translated into Quenya, which that's not how they are actually written. What kind of legality is there going to be?
Well, my first comment is to say you need to talk to a copyright attorney. Seriously.
Okay.
I mean, if you're talking about, are you talking about you're writing stuff that you're going to record live? You're going to just play live?
Yeah,
Or what?
well, pretty much, but I mean, I'm guessing I probably will record it too.
I don't know how stinky the Tolkien estate is
Yeah,
on stuff like that. There is such a thing as fair use, where you're allowed to use things, little clips of things, without
Right,
worrying
and
about it.
we're not talking like extensive passages, we're talking like a sentence.
You're probably going to get away with it without worrying about it.
Okay.
If you're really, really, really worried about it, then yeah, you may end up having to shell out $1,000 to talk to an attorney and have them do the work, because they're going to know all the ins and outs and you're not.
Okay.
That's a toughie. You could drop them a note. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time. We did that.
Ask permission.
We did that with a couple of them, and because we couldn't track down. Who was it? Couldn't track down. It's either Stan Rogers or Marina McKenna. We couldn't track down their licensing agency. So we actually sent them a note. Hi, I want to record this. And either, I think one of them, might have been Felix Storm, said, yeah, knock yourself out.
Yeah, Pat talked about Felix Storm.
Yeah, and one of them said,
that sounds cool, go ahead.
yeah, and one of them said, and that was it. It was legal at that point. And another one said, here's our licensing agency. Stan Rogers has his own licensing agency. And curiously enough, for Stan Rogers pieces, if you're Canadian, there's no license.
Things wouldn't like that.
Yeah.
I'll have my wife do it, because she's got dual citizenship.
Well, that would be fine. But everybody else had to pay whatever the going rate was. And I forget what the rate was. I think she was kind of a standard. But those are, you know, but if you want to record stuff that somebody else has written and you expect to make any money out of it, even a little bit, you either get it in writing or you get it in a contract. You know, you, Corey Bergeron, are allowing me, Bill C. Reed, to record, your lyrics of this and this and this or whatever, and or and then be sure to cut it in the credits, which is where the artwork comes from, because we always have sweat bullets when we're trying to do artwork for CDs. Now I don't know what the hell you do. You put it as a text file in an MP3. Put it on your website.
Readme.text.
Yeah, put it on your website or something like that. I'll
tell you a story over lunch.
Okay, so anyway, that's the talking part. After lunch, which is right on time. After lunch is going to be the practice, try it out part, and we'll see what the hell happens. I don't guarantee that we're going to get anything usable, but I'm going to show you how all the pieces work together and actually do it. You bring your guitar? Yeah, of course you do. Of course. You want to try to record something too, as well? I mean, I asked Paula to come in with a piece ready.
I did.
And she's got one, but if you wanted to.
I believe I'm bad on like step 4, step 6. Practice. I'm uncertain. I have
Said to me in Pat's pavement, recording studio is a very expensive practice.
Yes,
They are.
I'm uncertain that I have. Well, sure, why not? Well, I mean, I can be the cautionary tale.
Right, I mean, okay, yeah, I mean, we recorded with a friend, he became a friend, Malcolm. He had built a recording studio out in the middle of God knows nowhere, southeast of Morrow. Really, literally out in the countryside. And he was cheap. Well, yeah, it was. It was way back in the woods. He had built it above his garage. It was $25 an hour. Holy crap. I think he's probably, well, he moved to Ecuador now, so I don't know what he's charging.
I think they paid more than that for the first eccentric album.
Yeah, well, but it was $25 an hour. But it was still $25 an hour to practice. Yeah, oh no.
Practice time is free.
Yeah, practice at home. That also $25 an hour was for mixing too. And because he was using his studio equipment to do the mixing in. So it was $25 an hour to do the mixing, and the mixing took a lot. Like I said, I did 100 hours plus of mixing on the Subterranean album, and I wasn't charging $25 an hour for it. Maybe I should have. So as part of this whole deal is I am willing to work with people, even to the point of packing this shit up and going to record you. We'll have to work out the cost, but it ain't going to be no $25 an hour. But back when the choir group up at Cleflin's was going, and I was starting to get the idea of how to record them, and I was going to offer to come up there and record them, and then COVID hit and the whole thing fell apart. So I've got equipment to do that kind of thing. And probably, if we're talking about recording in a cathedral, this and a couple of microphones and microphone stands and what I got here is it. This would be plenty. So making a portable recording studio is not that hard as long as you've got the space. And, which we're back to recording at 3 o'clock in the morning in order to reduce the outside noise. But stuff like that is doable and not that hard.
Well, it's not that hard for you because you have thousands of hours of practicing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's terrifying to me.
Let me see here.
I'm like, oh God.
If this is something that is of interest to people.
I think actually just going over these things, because I was running into like hiccups here and there, and I think I'm seeing how I can simplify the system and make it
Okay, so this is band layout for cakewalk.
Mm-hmm.
Empty audio Okay, so here's, all right, I don't need this. Pop that out of the way. All right, so here's a channel. Right? And this is largely how it looks in a recording studio too.
It's a little more complicated than it looks in the garage.
Yeah. Well, that's because, well, it's the same thing with photography. All of those controls are there so that you can get to them easy, because you might need them. Right, so here's a section where I can drop in an effects on the, I'm going to record something. It will appear over here as a waveform. I can then do, this is where I can do things like automation and tell it where to go. So right now, this is where it comes from. Right now it's none because I don't have anything hooked up. But I could, this is the sound card that's built into the laptop. Okay, so I could say I want to pull it off of the left channel of the sound card. All right. This is where it's going. It's going to the master. The master is what comes out from the speakers. So now, if I start recording, okay, I wonder what the hell will happen here if I say I'm going to record this. Because I just told it to use the microphone, and guess what? See that?
Using the microphone.
See right there? That's using the microphone. So now, if I hit record, where it is, here it is. Test. Oh, hear that?
Click track.
I got a click track turned on. And you see the waveform appearing. And so if I want to edit that part, okay, that's good enough. Stop. Okay. All right, let's just put this thing right there. And go right to here. So I'm going to select that. Play that back. We got a click track turned on. And you see the waveform appearing. All right. Click right there. What do I want to do to this thing? I just take that out.
Yeah, because it's recording from the microphone. It could hear the click track, so it recorded the click track.
Right. The click track was coming out the speaker. It was
Yeah.
listening to the microphone. So now if I go back here, say, okay, oh, stop. And you see the wave appearing. Ta-da! Edit. I actually broke this particular one. When I did that, I broke it into two tracks.
And so you just
So
drag
now,
it.
let's take that down here. See what happens. All right, now I've taken that part to track 2. All right, let's just take this along here. See, remember what I said about if you're recording yourself playing guitar twice and one line is slightly behind another? Okay, well, here's how I would adjust the two. All right, so this one is also feeding to the master. Let me turn the recording off. All right, this is also feeding to the master. So now, go back here, start hearing. Test it. So, oh, do that. If I want to edit that, click right back. Okay, you see the wave? Okay. Ta-da! 2-track recording.
So that sounds like future.
Yeah, that's true. But okay, that's now recording. This is called track 3 because it was track 2 before when I dragged it off. Now let's delete that. I don't need this here. Delete that here. See all this insert effects, a lot of stuff in here that I could do. I want to get rid of that. So let's just delete it because this is way more involved.
Yeah, there's somebody, and I don't know what software he uses, that will get chunks, pieces of different songs and mix them together.
Yep.
You know, like a rap and a country song, and they have the same tempo and they're in the same key, and he makes it work together. It's like, holy smokes, it's a hell of a remix.
Delete.
Oh yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
I've seen his videos.
All right, we'll mute.
He's like, I can't believe this would work.
Yeah.
All right, we'll mute that. Let's go back in here into the effects channel. We're going to insert reverb. I'm not going to mess with the settings right now. Now let's play that. Test. Oh, do that. We got a click track turned on. Okay. Settings. Oh, see, now I can play when I play this back. Let's see. Test. All right. Oh, do that. We got a click track turned on. Can you see the wave?
So here you reverb.
Yeah, I don't. Oh, I put it on the wrong track. Stop. Oh, that's track, because that's track 2. Go away, track 2. I don't want you anymore. There we go. There's track. All right, now we'll put the reverb on here. All right. Fine.
Yes. I don't hear that. We got contractor done.
Wow, you could never
Can you see the way?
Default settings, you go in there, now you start messing with the settings.
Parking garage.
Right. Well, when,
that dumpster on fire.
let's see, with that, let's try a different one here. Oops, don't want soft sync. Multi-band compressor, won't be able to hear the difference here. Regular compressor.
Auto-tune.
I have that, not on this machine.
That's really, it's fun. It's really fun.
I don't, I use it fairly often when somebody chips a note. Okay, maybe they were a little bit flat. I can sit there, and it doesn't matter because the auto-tune program I use, which is a program called Melodyne, can do instruments. Not only that, it can do chords.
Really?
It can tear apart a chord and just do one note out of the chord. If you were doing a C major chord and you screwed up and hit C minor, I can go in there and take that E flat and boost it up.
Wow.
And it does a pretty respectable job of maintaining the tonality as long as you don't move it too far. I mean, if I can octave shift something, for example, but if I octave shift me, I'm going to sound like a chipmunk. Okay, so you don't want to push it, but you can do things. You know, it's really good at tearing apart guitar chords.
Really good take, but you're a little pitchy here.
Yeah, or you're a little bit out of tune on the E string or something.
Right.
Or no matter how many times you try, you cannot hit that high note, Valentine.
Yeah. So it can be easily used to fix things like that. It's astonishing. So yes, I could do the auto-tune thing that sounds like you're the only thing I can think of is a fretted singing voice.
Yeah.
Where you can only hit certain.
Like the guy with the tattoos all over his
Yeah.
face.
Yeah.
All this all.
It can do that. But more often I can sit there and I can change the dynamics. So it can adjust the attack so that it's not so attacky. For example, it has an astonishing collection of stuff that you can do to adjust the sound of a particular track. I have a violinist that just cannot hit a note to save their ass. And that's because violins are not fretted. So, you know, if you're slightly off with your fingering, the note is slightly off. And, okay, well, okay,
The violin is not the instrument for you.
well, yeah. But you're a hundredth of an octave is called a cent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're 3 cents slow. And I'm,
You can hear that.
you can hear that, you know?
Your finger.
And, well, all right, I'll just select that note and bump it up 3 cents and bring it into line. Okay, turn the lights back on.
You get lunch.
It's lunchtime here. We're done. We are done for now. When we come back after lunch, we will set up the next one.
And you can.
Okay. Picking up for where we left off, we are now going to set up and actually configure to record. Hala has very generously given or put together a piece for us to record. I have no idea what we're walking into. Presumably, it's not going to be ribald but we're going to start by cabling things up. Well, here we are with the USB.
Like a printer.
Yep, pretty much. You should always don't plug this in through a hub. Hubs can interrupt the flow of data. Just plug it directly into your computer.
So from scratch, I'm going to sit.
Okay, that's fine. And if if this thing is going to not come up, I'm going to reboot my PC just to recognize the soundboard. Meantime, around here is a mic stand. Try to figure out what to use. I think this one. Okay.
I hold my guitar like Charles.
Put together the mic stand.
Actually, an amazing guitar.
Yes, actually, yes.
Okay. Okay. That is a shock mount that will help reduce sound by things coming up through the floor.
And a
The
boom.
microphone in there. Okay.
Mhm.
This particular one, the sound comes in where the logo is. Now we need to go and, if you would be so kind as to take that over and put it in.
I can aim myself any way you want.
Yeah. Connor here is going to be our studio assistant.
I believe I'm the boom operator.
There's a cable.
Grip.
All right. There is a switch on the front of this unit. Sometimes it's called phantom. This particular one is called 48V, 48 volts. Now, once I get this plugged in, I will put this into channel 1, and then I'll turn on the phantom.
But it's getting power from the USB.
It's getting power from the USB, and this thing is USB powered. The power requirements for phantom microphones are very low, and there are battery supplies that you can get. Or there are a number of ways to powering a phantom.
They're like pedals that you can get that you could even mount to like
Yep.
board that, you know.
Okay, and we're going to use, and I realize people can't see this right now because the projector makes a heck of a racket. We'll turn it on here for a bit. Like I said. Okay, go ahead. And the thingy is hooked up, but we need to say, where is the sound coming from? And so I click on the input, and you'll see right here, it says audio box, left, right, or stereo. We're plugged into the left. If we had the second microphone in to plug into both, we'll create a second track and plug into the right. Or you can make a stereo track, which does both of them automatically, but then it treats them combined as a unit. We could go back later and say split the stereo tracks, and it turns them into 2 mono tracks.
Mhm.
So we're just going to go ahead and do a line in on the left side. Okay, now turn the metronome off. Okay. Notice up here it says 120 beats a minute, 4 measures.
Yeah.
So you can actually make it go tick, 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 to help keep track. For this particular piece, we're going to just go with what we got here. Let's see. All right, the timing, you'll see there's a timer right there. There's also timers on the track. We're going to just go with milliseconds because you could also go with measure beat. And have it put in, okay, go to measure 5. We're just going to go with milliseconds. All right, and you see that little slider there is telling us how, right now there's a 222 seconds, 0.2223. All right. Other settings are normal. It gets really technical really fast. This one here, though, there's a concept of samples per second. Okay. The CDs were at 44,100 samples per second. That was established a long time ago. DVDs were at 38,000 samples per second. The reason was that the people at the time wanted them, they weren't compatible, so you couldn't use one to bootleg the other. It was dumb then, and it's even dumber now because software can easily switch between the two of them. And so now but we end up having to fight with what sampling rate are we using? So we're going to use 44.1 because that's what CDs are on. It really doesn't matter in the long run.
It just changes the size of the files.
Yeah, it does. If you make the wrong conversion, it speeds it up or slows it down.
So in my my holiday thing that I did with friends, I had a friend of mine who really wanted to produce. So I went, okay, go ahead and produce it, you know. And she wanted to do it all in HQ, high quality audio. And so what she gave me, which I had to completely change over, she gave me the final tracks that were so big and bulky that the output bureau refused to use them. So I had to master them down to
Right.
to MP3.
Okay. So now we are going to, first, we're going to do a number of things here to get ready. We're going to, in order to keep this thing from sending audio back out, though it's going to send the audio. Let's look at the master track a second. All right, where is the master track going? It's going to the audio box speakers, and the audio box speakers are not hooked up.
Oh,
So we're fine. What I want to prevent here is a feedback loop. I could send this, once we plug headphones into this, I'll switch those audios. I won't have to change anything because the audio box speakers will be on. But right now, we're fine. All right, go back to track one. Come on, back to track one. Okay. Well, this is called arming. You're ready to record on track one. Now, the next thing is to set the levels, which is where we adjust the audio so it gets up near the top. Go ahead and plug.
Need more gain.
Yeah, I just need to be sure I'm turning the right knob. All right. Now play like you're going to play.
la 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 la. I don't play very loud.
Well, I mean, perform it for me. Start.
Come live with me and see my love, and we will love pleasures too. Carrying through hills and fields, so dreamy and feel.
Okay. You'll see here on this particular display is at one point I had it turned up too high and we smacked into the top. Everything, the absolute top is 0 and everything is, all the other levels are below 0. You can't go above 0 on this particular machine. That when she was playing there, you'll notice that the peak hit at -1.8. That's acceptable. It's probably, to give us a little more headroom, we might want it to be a little bit lower, because you do not, under any circumstance, want to hit 0 and stay there. That will cause distortion. Now, distortion in analog, you run into that all the time. Almost every rock band has their guitar running in distortion. That's part of the sound that they want. That's fine. Here, we don't want that, because digital distortion sounds really, really, really bad. Okay, so it's called, when it clips off the top of the waveforms, and so it's called clipping. And we do not want that. So we want to stay below 0.
So that tells you where you've maxed out.
Right. This is telling you where, when she was playing, where it maxed out. See now, right now you can see it's picking up my voice, and you can see it bouncing up around -17. the way this works, and it's really technical, it's okay to be -6 or -10 or -12. We got lots of room down below, and we can boost it up. There are ways in here that we can we can apply gain
Right.
on this track. So that's fine. This particular one, we could be down in the -30 range and we'll still be getting acceptable results. We'll definitely want to boost it up at that point. So,
But you can't unclip it.
you cannot unclip. Well, I saw somebody that did that once. They lowered the volume. If you looked at it on an oscilloscope trace, you actually saw it would come up and stop and go across and then back down as opposed to going up and down.
Uh-huh.
So up to here, it didn't go any higher. So he lowered the volume of everything so that he got some headroom, and then he drew in the peak. Okay.
Oh, that's fun.
He was adding samples but it was, the only reason you would do that is because it was an unreplaceable take, and you had to do something in order to recover it. And it was hugely time consuming. I imagine you could probably find tools to do that now, but even clip recovery tools. But no, the idea of saying I'm going to fix it in post, no. Oh, move over a little bit. You're blocking the camera here.
Yeah, that would be.
That would be.
I have it on that screen right now.
All right.
You're
Well,
no
whatever.
matter where I'm
Whatever.
moving the camera, you're
You
kind of
just
in the,
cancel my camera.
yeah.
So yeah, it might have been worth the effort on that particular go, but no. All right.
Thread by thread reconstruction of the top 3 inches of the base tapestry.
Yeah, pretty much. All right, now you'll see that here it's gone. You see that there are 2 red dots. This is showing like it was a stereo channel, and if in fact it's this stereo, each side would be doing something different. But this is mono. The red dots mean that we clipped at one point. You can see here we hit 0. So at this point, we can record it. We're ready to record. I'm going to label this guide. All right. I'm not doing anything with that. This is where we can set up things like automatic leveling when we're doing playback. That's stuff we're not going to worry about here. We can change the colors. Well, sometimes it's important. You want to make me make all the percussion tracks one color. So
that actually, that would help.
So that would help. All right, right now the output is going to the master, and the master is going to the speaker, the speaker output on the box. We're not going to worry about that right now. You'll notice here that the pan is set in the middle. That means in the stereo image, it's going to be centered. We can choose wherever we want that to go. For recording, it doesn't really matter. This particular software, I can actually type that in or double click it to set it to 0. This thing it is armed to record, which means now if I press the record button, it will start, and you'll see the lines go across, and we're actually going to get data. So at this point, we can say to the performer, or in production speak, the talent. That's what they say. Get the talent on the screen, folks. I am now going to turn this thing off. Well, I can leave this on. We'll just get a word in the recording. Okay, she's tuning. Devil's instrument. All the rest of this stuff we're going to ignore for some time. So I will say here, okay, so this is a track. This is a bus. Bus is where you send your tracks. It combines, what level it combines them at is set by the slider here. This is an output slider. So and again, notice it's a 0. That means 0 is your reference at this point. we can turn that down, and we would be sending a lower amount to the bus. If okay.
All right.
So ultimately, we're going to end up feeding all of these into the master bus, though it may take some time. This is where we start getting technical, and it gets to be can be confusing, which is why a track sheet really helps. Because then I'd say, all right, I'm taking track 1 and track 2, and I'm sending them to a guitar bus, which would be just the guitar tracks. Now I'm going to mess around with the various effects and whatnot on the guitar track, and then I'm going to send it to the master bus. Or if I'm doing multiple guitars, I'm going to have a combined I'll have a guitar bus per performer, and then a bus for all of the guitars, and then and then off to the master. But something like that. All right, so we are ready to go. If you are, we don't, and this is the nice thing about having this yourself is I can hit the button and you can, or if you're recording yourself, you can hit the button, record 30 seconds of you moving around, picking up your guitar, getting ready, and then off you go. But it's nice to have a recording engineer, which is what I'm doing right now is being Mr. Recording Engineer, and I'm going to start the recording, and then you can start when you're ready.
It's cheaper than that.
Oh, hold on. That's the other thing. Arm the track,
On the track, yeah.
and let's try that again. Go. And why is it stopped? Why is it not recording?
Select the track.
Oh, okay. You're fired. Yeah, I know.
You punch it.
All right, there we go.
There it is. Come live with me and be my love, and we will all worship you. That valleys grow, hills and hills, or sleepy mountains here. And we will sit upon the rocks and watch the shepherds feed their flocks by shallow rivers to fall. Lord, you said, sing my dream come. There will I make thee beds of roses and 1,000 fragrant roses, a cap of flowers and a kettle embroidered on leaves of myrtle. A gown made of the finest wool, which from a pretty land will pull. The Caroline slippers for the crow, with buckles on the purest gold. A belt of straw and ivy buds, with coral flowers and amber studs. And if these pleasures be made known, come live with me and be my love. The shepherd's train shall dance and sing, but I delight each day more. many more that live with me and feed my soul. Still I find many more that live with me and feed my soul.
I heard a couple of potential mistakes in there.
Yes.
This is where the talent has some input on what the hell they did and how they like it. Like for one point, I think you lost your spot, your place, and you were quiet for way too long. Like right there.
Yeah.
Nice thing is we can edit that out. You know, I can say, all right, we're going to take out about a second and a half of that pause, and then delete and have it move it over. Delete, delete special, delete whole. I don't know if that's how we want it, but that's something you can do.
There it is now.
Well, no, guess what? Undo delete. Okay. And notice it also is split because it makes it easier for the machine to split the track. I could also just, you know, if there was a clunk, but otherwise it's fine, zero it out so it just would mute as opposed to removing it. I don't know, I'd say probably record it again.
Okay. Is it okay if I start bringing in a few things to set up? I started a half hour, and I'm doing virtual. It's going to take a while to set up. Is it okay if I just bring a few things in?
Sure. You only go until 2?
I think you're at 2:30.
What? 2:30. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry.
Yeah, I don't know, that's okay. So this thing here is giving us all kinds of information. See, this little window up here is sort of a representation of the recorded track. So you can see where we are.
It is to,
Scheme of things.
you were supposed to start at 12:30.
Oh, okay, we were supposed to start. Oh, well. All right, we'll just go with what we got here.
Okay.
And I'll take,
I apologize.
all right, now I'm gonna, real quick like, hook up to the speaker, main all the way down, hook up to a speaker. When all else fails, hook to the left channel. Let's go back to the beginning and turn off, unarm the recording so I don't record over it. And hit play and see what we get.
Come live with me and be my love, and we will merge you. Let the valleys grow, till and feel what should be mountain feel.
Okay? So that doesn't sound too bad, and it's certainly usable as a guide track.
Yeah.
All right, now let's configure for recording or singing. We can use the same, we'll just use the same microphone for everything. So this is a case of,
Well, if you want me to stand and sing, we'll have to pop that.
yeah, we have to rearrange the microphone.
Oh, yeah, it's a funky little instrument. Very fancy. Yeah.
Okay, next step, headphones. quality control headphones here. While we're doing that, there goes in the headphones check there. While we're going in that, doing that, we will add a new track.
Main out.
Okay, so track 2 is vocal. Okay, it's coming from, I'm going to turn that off now, so it's not, this was getting any sound. And, all right, we're going in line one again. And it's coming out the master. Let's see here.
So we should not hear the playback.
Well, because I'm turning the speaker down and I don't want feedback.
Right.
But when I get this thing set up right, okay.
Okay, so you can turn it down a little bit, I hear myself.
All right, good. Okay, and that's, you're hearing yourself.
Yeah.
Right from there.
Yep.
Right back up.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, now.
You still might want to turn it down just a wee bit.
All right.
Yeah. Perfect.
All right. Now I turn this guy down. All right, go ahead and sing like you were singing. That's because we need.
Come with me and be my love, and we will all the pleasures through.
Okay, that's good. Good. Yeah, you do. And that's fine. Okay. So now we're basically, at this point, what should happen here is I'm going to hit play, and you should hear the guide track. Okay, how's the level of the guide track?
Good.
Okay. From out here, from the rest of us out here, this is going to be kind of boring. But now,
If he tries to figure out where that mystery gap is.
I think we won't have to go all the way through here. We can just do part of it.
Yeah.
I knew that what was going to come out here is not going to be a finished product.
Right.
All right. But now if I hit record, it's going to play back the guide track and record what's hitting the microphone at the same time. So you're ready to sing along for yourself, with yourself. And the problem is we didn't give ourselves a warning like 3, 2,
That's okay.
1.
I listened to it and I know where I need to come in.
All right. So yeah, the trick is always coming in when you're supposed to when you get started. Once you get started, it's generally not a problem.
If I have an instrumental intro.
Yeah, something. Okay. And are you ready?
I'm ready. Come live with me and be my love, and we will all the pleasures prove that valleys grow, hills and fields, woods or sleepy mountains yield. And we will sit upon the rock, see the shepherds feed their flock by shallow rivers to the fall. Melodious birds sing my dream song.
Okay. In case you didn't notice, we clipped there, which was partly my fault. We should have practiced more so I could see where you're going to run into it. Notice the little red lights are on here. And if we look down the track, I saw a spot, I think it's right there. Yep. Yep, that's it right here. Not going to worry about it right now because we're a little short on time. If this was the real thing, we'd go back and do that again. Okay, but now we have a vocal. So I'm going to arm that. In fact, we are not going to play that when she plays the guitar. We're going to mute, so we mute that. All right, go ahead and set up for guitar. Begin with the microphone.
And then she's going to listen to the guide track
While
to
she's
play guitar
right.
rather than the vocal track.
Right. Well, you can do both. but we'll, for just a sec, all right, now we get to play aim the microphone a little bit.
Yes.
So go ahead and take your position here.
Okay, I'm gonna do,
And while she's doing that, I'm going to add another track. Insert audio track. This is going to be
Oh, sorry.
okay. The guitar track is now connected. This new track is, I've disconnected these others from the audio box, and the new guitar track is connected to the audio box. Again, it's going to the master output, but we're not going to worry about that right now. Well, we're going to leave it set up the way it is because it obviously works. All right, I would say what you probably want to, I don't know about getting closer, but kind of aim it. You can also just aim the microphone. You don't have to move the boom.
Okay.
Tilt the microphone down a little bit.
I didn't even see that.
Yeah, something like that. That's probably pretty good. Aim it, yeah, more or less at the sound hole, right? And here's where your mic discipline says do not wander around. All right. And so we are in fact, all right, let's get a level here. All right, that's a little lower than the other one, but that's fine. We can play with that. It's certainly usable. So we are ready. Okay, I've muted the vocal tracks. We're not going to hear that anymore. Guide track is still on. The S, by the way, is solo. If you've got like 25 tracks going and you only want to hear one, you hit S on that and it solos just that track. All right, you ready?
ready.
Question? Okay. Now here, you're going to have to, you're starting with your little guitar intro there. You may miss this. Remember, we can actually take and cut that and slide it in time.
Mhm.
So if you play, but you're a little slow getting started, you can fix, that's things we can fix.
Okay.
Or it may not matter. The pacing of this piece is
Very
organic.
organic.
And it's slow enough that if you start a little late,
You can catch it.
that just means this dead space here is going to be a little bit shorter.
Right.
And that's not going to hurt. Okay, here we go. See? Okay. That's where we ran out of vocal.
Interesting. I'm learning to read the Matrix. I'm listening to her play, and I'm watching the scratch track.
Right.
And I'm like, nope.
Okay. Now remember, we're calling at this level. You're seeing the volume envelope.
Right.
You can zoom in. I'll go on to do that. Somewhere here there's a zoom, and I can actually get down to the point where it looks like an oscilloscope track.
Mhm.
Okay. So now we have. All right. So now we unmute that because we want the vocal. And we mute the guide because we don't need it anymore.
And we get how they sound together.
And, yep. And now we turn the speaker up here.
And I can't stop.
Yep. Okay. And so let's see what we got. Back to the beginning. And hit play. And
Come live with me and be my love, and we will all the pleasures prove that valley.
see, this is the two separate tracks now. Because I can mute the vocal and hear just the
And
guitar. So this is actually the two tracks being combined.
Good for sleepy mountain hill.
All right, and mind you, if I'm mixing this now, I'm thinking to myself, need to back down some. Bring it more in line with the guitar. You know, that didn't decrease the overall volume, but we can deal with that either by turning it just up here, or we can turn it up on the master. Okay? But there you go. So now is when the grunt work starts.
Yes.
Assuming that you've got tracks that you are happy with, now is time to start working your way through them, listening to them, deciding if there are tweaks there. I would probably put some compression on the guitar because it's not as bad as a lute, but it's fairly far. I mean, a lute is such a quiet instrument that if it's in a room with a bunch of instruments and other instruments, it doesn't matter if you're playing it or not, nobody can hear it.
So how does compression help?
It
Quiet
reduces,
instrument.
what it does is it lowers the high volume. Okay. You know, yeah, you can get really tricky on it here, but in my case, I would go in here and I would tell it to instantly compress everything and lower the highs so they're closer to the low quiet parts. Okay. So that makes the entire track quiet. Then you bring the entire track up.
Okay.
So now you've reduced the variation in volume, but you've got the overall average volume up where it needs to be.
So how would you do that? Would you
All right.
clone the track?
Well,
So you've got
I've done that before, but I don't know if I need to do it here or not. Let's just say in this case, I'm going to go ahead and insert compressor. Okay. So right now, this chart is input versus output. This
Right.
is what comes in. This is what comes out.
Right.
You'll notice that it's a straight line.
Straight across.
So it's not going to do anything.
Right.
And if I play this, solo that, hit play, notice the dot here says where the signal is. All right, and you can see it's got levels in and level out. Level over here is the input, level over here is the output.
Switch on the light up. Thank you.
Okay,
Okay, so.
I'm going to turn the attack all the way down, so it starts instantly. Release is how fast you quit compression. I'm going to leave that there right now. All right. That's an overall gain. I'm not going to worry about that yet. This is gain reduction here. And stop this. All right, now.
So you just literally grab the curve and drag it.
Right, so I'm going to say, I want to take, come on. Do this crap. Yeah. Hard knee, I don't want to. Well, since I can use this particular one. Come on. Yeah, but stuff was all happening down here, so either I have to turn the volume up coming in, or I gotta move this further down. Come on down. It's long since I've done this one.
that back in there.
Duration. Oh, there we go. All right. So now, and then, so now this, we can drive that through the gap. Okay. Play that. Here it's much lower. Now it's where I bring the makeup gain back up. Bypass it here. It's bringing the quiet. I've now brought the quieter parts up so that they're closer to the louder parts.
Okay.
The difference in volume is different, is lower.
Then you just make the whole track loud.
Make the whole track louder with makeup being here. All right, so that's how I would apply compression in this scenario. You see this thing called limiter here, which says don't let it get any louder than whatever.
Right.
Okay, which I mean, for this one it does whatever.
Yeah.
There are other controls here. It is complicated. You can get it really deep into this if you wanted to.
So once you get it dialed in, I assume you can like save it as a preset, name it Charlie or something.
Yep, exactly. Now, what I was talking about before was I might take. I'm going to duplicate this track. Okay.
Set vocal piezo button.
All right, where is duplicate?
Can you move back? I can't see the
Where do you
Duplicate track.
thing.
just tell me where to go?
All right, properties, specs, and
I'm used to it.
All right, so there's
Just get it
the
here.
track.
I'm not holding
And
it.
I'm going to leave the compressor on that one, and I'm going to take the compressor off this one. Right. Just turn it off there. Okay, compressor's fine. Now, I'm going to, right now these are both feeding into the master. I'm going to create it
Both what?
both guitars, this guitar and guitar compressed. So I'm going to add compressed to the label.
Okay, because I don't see the waveform on the second one. That's what confused me.
Oh, that's a good point. Where is? Oh, did I actually?
Did not get
I
copied?
did. I said duplicate the day. Say duplicate the duplicate the data. I'm going. Go away. All right, skip that. Give that one alone. All right, up here. Mistake compression. All right, let's try that again. Duplicate track. Audio track. Come on. Why are you not coming along with the audio? All right, I would have to do some investigating.
All right.
In any event, I would duplicate it. Let's pretend that it worked.
All right.
Now I would go down here and I would insert another audio track. I can insert a bus too. Insert another audio track. So that's track 6. And I say, all right, where is this going? It was going to master. Oh, there it is. I can do that. This is new bus. Right. So this is coming from okay, I'm gonna have to, it's been a while since I've been in here and they've been issuing patches. But I would select this, feed those two into this aux bus. Okay.
And
Then
then
if I'm-
essentially turns them into one instrument.
Right, it combines I said both the guitars into that one. That will let me then, it adds them together. I can control the relative volume,
Mhm.
compressed versus the uncompressed, for example. And then I only have to, if I want to do reverb on the guitar, I only have to insert it in one place. We're now getting kind of down into the weeds of recording engineering, which I might not, depending on what I thought of the original tracks, I would not necessarily do. It depends. At this point, it now becomes a question of it depends. What am I going to do with, listening to the violin track? That's thin. Or, all right, now listening to the vocal track. Okay, I need to tail that sharp edge off. So I start messing around with equalization. Or I decide she needs a little bit more mid-range to boost the presence a bit. Yeah, there's a lot that goes on at this point.
It's a whole nother class.
Yep.
But that's really it. I mean, there's a gazillion other things that I can do in here. Look at all this stuff here about transpose
And different tools are going to have different capabilities.
right.
What plugins you get.
If I look at the effects here, how many effects did this thing come with? Compressor, reverb, delay, multiband compressor, gate. Then there's a couple of different delay things. There's some distortion things. There's a whole bunch of compressors. Equalizer, where I can sit there and play games all day with equalization.
Doesn't have under guitar effects.
Guitar effects.
Oh, okay.
TH3, I'd have to look at and see what it does. A lot of these are oriented toward other types of recording. I don't know if my gut's fall on me now. There we go.
Oh, okay. So this whole bunch of stuff.
Insert treble out. There's the amount of stuff that you can go looking for effects-wise is staggers the mind. But but I'm not going to record if you want fuzz. If you want to do a fuzz pedal, you're going to record it clean, and we'll put the fuzz in later because it makes editing a real pain in the ass, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think tremolo too. If I want to edit one note out of your tremolo.
Okay, so let's say, not that I'm going to do, but let's say I have an effects pedal. So what I'm going to want to do is I want to record the raw, even if I'm playing it through that pedal. Like, let's say I'm recording a live. Then I've got the raw, and I can apply the pedal after.
You can feed a channel out
Yes,
to the audio box.
yes.
Take the audio box and plug it into your pedal. I'll take the output of the pedal and feed it back into the other side of the audio box and record a track with the effect applied.
That's why they call it an effects loop.
Yes, yes,
That's called, like you said, that's called an effects loop.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
All right. I guess I do need help there.
Now the only difference is that in this case there are ways that you can render the master track. Let's suppose I want to save this out as a master track.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm gonna say the master track is out. The output of the master track is going to go to a wave file,
Mm-hmm.
and that's going to be my final produced thing. I have two choices. One is I can do it in real time, and that means that I hit play and I go away for a cup of coffee because it took 5 minutes, and it processed in 5 minutes because that's how long the piece was. Or I say there's an option here to render it out as fast as the computer will run. Okay, well, and I can do it in seconds.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to do all of these effects here are computer programs. Okay, so it hands the sample into this little subsidiary computer program, which does its thing and then sends the output back into the main program.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to run as fast as it wants to because it doesn't have to do anything with the real world. It's all happening inside the computer.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm running an effects loop, I can't do that.
Right.
because the outboard effect processor expects the sound to be coming in at normal
In real
playing
time,
speed.
because it's analog.
So I have to set it up so the effects loop goes out and back. It records it to a new track. Then I do the render and it processes in real time because the effects processor has to run in real time.
Okay.
But if you can stand that, and that's how you would do it. You can sit there. It gets kind of tricky with a little 2-channel box because it can only do one at a time.
Right.
But if you don't mind that, you can do as much as you want. You know, if you're going to get crazy about it, you're going to get an 8 input or an 8.
Well, I have, but I don't really do anything to instruments. I actually have a vocal effects pedal that I really like. So.
Well, it's funny, you listen to Cell Play Live, and Ian has an effects loop for his mic and for the flute. And you watch him play, and he's got stomp boxes.
Yes.
And you'll see him do that, because there are lines that he sings dry, and there are lines that he sings where he essentially is doubling his own voice.
Yes.
And he's doing that live,
Like,
in real time.
Yeah, that's it. The TC. Well, I got I had a voice led touch, but the voice led touch, the body on it just started disintegrating. I couldn't fix it well enough to use it because the buttons were all integrated into the case. Anyways, so I got a modern one, and I'm not
okay,
exactly
open the door
sure
if you need to
what
start tearing
voice
down
I
here.
have, but I can definitely see that I would want to do it.
Well, for that